Having ejaculation control isn't about something you do when you're at the edge. It's something that you're training for long before sex even begins. By the end of this video, you're gonna have a really good understanding of why things you've tried before haven't worked for ejaculation control, and how any man, regardless of where you're at right now, can have complete control over his ejaculation. But we got a few things to cover, so let's get into it. I'm Jonathan White. I've helped thousands of men from around the world learn to retrain their mind and body to experience complete ejaculation control and non-ejaculatory orgasms and go into sex feeling calm and confident. Make sure you hit subscribe to stay notified when content like this is released. So in this video, I'm going to cover ejaculation control in depth, and we're going to cover the three aspects of ejaculation control, which relates to the mind, to your body, and your energy, the flow of life force within your body. Or you could say your nervous system information, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be very in-depth, all right. But first of all, statistically, men do not last very long before ejaculating. I think the worldwide average is about 4 minutes. I bet that it's even lower now. And it's very obvious that this is becoming a big issue for actually the majority of men. I've started getting ads on YouTube for drugs to treat premature ejaculation, and I'll get into why this is not a good idea. But what are men usually doing to control ejaculation? What things have you been trying that haven't worked? The most common thing is think about something else. Think about baseball. Maybe that works, but you're distracting yourself. You're not able to be present and enjoy what's happening when you're thinking about baseball. You might hear things like use stop and go technique, where like if you feel close to ejaculating, you stop, maybe you pull out, you pinch your penis, something like that. Sure, that can help, but it's not really teaching you ejaculation control. It's still this thing that's going to disrupt your sex flow. Maybe you've heard to practice edging. Now, this could be something beneficial, but what a lot of men do is they go about it in the wrong way. And what they do is they practice masturbating, they're right at the edge of ejaculating, and then they stop. And it appears you have control because, there's no external factor there. You're not having sex with a partner. But what you may not realize is when you're doing edging in the wrong way, you're creating all this tension in your pelvic floor, and you're actually training yourself to stay right at the edge of ejaculating. And so this can actually make the issue worse. So not always a good solution. The other thing a lot of men do is Kegel exercises. They may hear, oh, well, if you get your pelvic floor muscles strong enough, then you can just squeeze off an ejaculation from happening. Unfortunately, that is not how it works at all, as you'll understand as we get more into the physiology of the body. And doing Kegels can actually worsen premature ejaculation, and you'll understand why as we get deeper into this. Another common thing that men are doing is taking drugs to try to overcome premature ejaculation. It's becoming very common for men to take SSRIs, which are serotonin reuptake inhibitors. They're marketing these things to men now, and what they do is raise your serotonin levels, which technically does make it more difficult for your body to ejaculate. But what's not apparent is that these drugs cause all kinds of nasty side effects. They can essentially castrate you sexually in the long run. And here's the thing. The third highest cause of death in the United States is pharmaceutical drugs. So to me, I would avoid taking any drug at all costs, personally. So me personally, I tried almost all these things I mentioned already, except SSRIs. I never took drugs to try to do this. I had to try out everything else. And I've been at this for 12 years. I've been at sexual kung fu for 12 years. 12 years of experience trying to learn sexual mastery and eventually achieving it myself and helping thousands of other men do the exact same thing. So I started to see patterns. I started to learn what's just a tip or trick that may work sometimes but doesn't work most of the time, and how that's different from a core retraining of your mind and your body, your whole nervous system. That is what sexual mastery requires. So getting into it, we must understand that premature ejaculation happens because a man is dominant in his sympathetic nervous system, especially during sexual arousal. So there's two branches of the nervous system. Well, actually there's three, but the most relevant ones are the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. Basically, the fight or flight response, where you're stressed and agitated and the body's releasing adrenaline and cortisol, or the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calm and cool, the rest and digest state. When your parasympathetic nervous system is dominant, you will not ejaculate, period. You will not have an issue building up towards ejaculation, period. All right? So that is what sexual kung fu training is all about, is how do you shift out of sympathetic nervous system and into parasympathetic, out of tension and into ease and relaxation throughout your sexual experience. And to be honest, it's not like, okay, you flip the switch one day and like that's it. It's a process, and you're constantly shifting from state to state. And sexual kung fu is about being able to understand, oh, now I've shifted back into the fight or flight mode. How can I, turn the wheel, get back on the road I want to be on, this pathway that I want to stay dominant on? That's what it's really about, okay? And that requires training. So I'm not offering you a tip, I'm not offering you like a quick fix, I'm offering you a core overhaul of your mind and body, because that's what it really takes. It's like training to become an athlete. What you put into it is what you will get out of it. So if you want a quick fix or a quick tip or trick, or like take a pill and try to fix something, you can take that route the easy way, but the truth is that that's not the path that actually leads to control. It's the path of trying to use a Band-Aid to cover up a deeper issue, okay? So if you like surface level, shallow fixes, go somewhere else. But if you want depth and something that's going to get to the root of the issue and completely transform a lot of different aspects about your life along the way, because what happens when you create this transformation in your nervous system, first of all, you feel more present during sex. You feel more confident during sex. Instead of sex being, maybe for you, kind of a frustrating or anxiety-inducing situation where it's a countdown to, oh shit, when am I going to ejaculate? Are they even enjoying this? Am I doing this right? It's hard to enjoy in that state. Well, instead, sex can become, take a moment and think, what would it be like if you went into sex full of enjoyment, full of confidence, just like, yeah, I'm enjoying this, I'm having this amazing sex, I'm enjoying the eroticism of it, and it's not this countdown to ejaculation. I'm able to fully enjoy the experience, just breathe through it, take in the pleasure as long as I want. That's what this can get you towards. And because of that, you find yourself able to enjoy life more. You're no longer relying on drugs and substances and vices because you've removed these tension patterns that are literally protecting you from life. And now you're more creative, you're more energetic, you're more confident, you're socially more open. Paths open in your life. It may sound ridiculous, but sexual mastery changes you at a core level. So now we understand how it's all about simply being in relaxation mode, essentially, not being in fight or flight. That's what it's really about. So let's talk about the mind, body, and energy aspect of this. We're actually going to start with body. It's the meeting point, right? The physical body. When it comes to the body, it's about creating physical changes. And the most obvious expression of this is the expression of tension, the holding of tension patterns in the tissues, in the muscles, and even in the fascia tissue. And the most relevant area where this is really expressed for men, sexually, just in general, but sexually, is the pelvic floor. The group of muscles around the genitals, and basically what a lot of men are doing that they don't realize is they're contracting the pelvic floor muscles. Just as a baseline, often throughout the day, they're holding a Kegel, which is like you're holding back urine. So just pay attention right now. Are you engaging your pelvic floor muscles? Is it like you're trying to hold back urine or holding a poop? You know what I'm saying? And if that's the case, relax. Let go. Relax the pelvic floor. Because this is the number one cause of premature ejaculation, is that tensing of the pelvic floor. It's activating a certain nerve signal, this tension pathway in your body, sending a signal to your brain saying, hey, we're loading the gun, loading the spring to ejaculate, essentially. And when you're doing that during sex, it's only a countdown before you ejaculate because there's a feedback mechanism between the nerves in the penis, the pelvic floor, and the brain. Again, it's like loading a spring. And when that spring loads to maximum tension, when the maximum tension builds up around the prostate in the pelvic floor, it triggers ejaculation. So the spring is released and you ejaculate fluid. So when you have a baseline of squeezing, you're already right at the edge, essentially. And what's also extremely common is for men to have what we could call an involuntary Kegel. When the penis is being stimulated, you respond by squeezing the pelvic floor muscles. This is extremely common. So notice next time your penis is being stimulated, you can do it right now, depending on your situation. Right? Don't be doing this in public, obviously. Notice you can place your fingers on your pelvic floor and your perineum, in the taint between your balls and your butthole. And notice as your penis is being stimulated, is there any sort of like tightening in that area? And I guarantee if you have premature ejaculation or any issues with controlling your ejaculation, that you have some degree of pelvic floor tension, all right? So this is the main thing that we want to work on physically, is releasing this tension from the pelvic floor. Now, tension in the pelvic floor often connects to the surrounding areas as well. The belly, the legs, the thighs, but the pelvic floor is a very direct way. If we can get it to relax and release, we're not going to ejaculate. And so coming back to these patterns of nervous system pathway. I've created a red line up the spine, demonstrating the sympathetic nervous system, and the blue line up the center of the body, demonstrating the parasympathetic. And in some ways, the sympathetic nervous system correlates to the spine, the back of the body, these nerve pathways of the sympathetic nervous system, whereas the parasympathetic may relate more to the vagus nerve. Now, this may not be accurate, but it works as an analogy. Basically, you can see there's these two different pathways. And so you're going to be dominant in one pathway. When that pathway is your fight or flight response, which is exhibited by tension, states of worry or overexcitement, anxiety, shortness of breath. All of these correspond to that sympathetic nervous system. Now, the whole goal, again, of sexual kung fu is to be dominant in this parasympathetic, the rest and digest, calm, basically develop a relaxation response during sex. So the easiest way to do this is to practice full belly breathing. During sex, breathe fully. Now, it doesn't need to be super slow and quiet, but breathe fully from your belly. This is the number one thing that you always want to come back to in sexual kung fu is full breathing from your belly. Even breathing into your balls, breathing into the pelvic floor, and focus on keeping the pelvic floor relaxed. Now, there's a whole lot that goes into this. I've made whole videos on this, but basically practice keeping your pelvic floor as relaxed as possible during sexual stimulation, and eventually you will retrain this pattern out of it. And then that brings us to the mind. So the mind and the body, of course, very, very interactive. They're very interactive. The mind affects the body, and the body affects the mind. So with the mind, it comes into certain mental states that we're in, which are going to affect what pathway of the nervous system you're dominantly functioning in. When you're in a state of nervousness and worry, fear, anxiety, overthinking, this means that you're releasing adrenaline and cortisol, you're firing up your fight or flight response. You will probably notice, if you haven't noticed by now, start paying attention to this, that anytime worry and anxiety is there, then premature ejaculation often is as well. An inevitable climb up towards the ejaculation. So the opposite of these mental states is to be in a state of calmness, confidence, enjoyment, pleasure. So there's a contrast here, right? In one state, the fight or flight state, it's like you're about to go into a battle. You know what I mean? It's like something bad's about to happen. Your heart's racing, your adrenaline's pumping. The other one's like, it's a beautiful summer day. You're in a park, laying on the grass, watching the clouds go by. There's no worries in your mind. And as I say this, I'm like, wow, this used to be a common experience for humans back in like the 90s when I was growing up, and people don't do that much now, do they? And it would be very valuable too. Anyways, the state that your mind is in. Of course, there's emotions and different feelings that go along with this, but it's as simple as this mental state that you're in. Now, once again, the mind and body affect each other. One way to shift your mental state is to change things physically. So again, when you're in these states of worry and anxiety, I guarantee that there's tension happening in the body. And so one way to address this is to relax the physical body and breathe fully. So you can work on the mind by working on the body, all these things. But what's also very helpful is to change your frame around how you approach sex. What is typical for men, especially men who have difficulty controlling ejaculation, is to kind of put sex on a pedestal, and especially like how their partner views them. Like, basically, I have to please my partner. If she's not having amazing sex or multiple orgasms, I've completely failed and I'm worthless. And that becomes the focal point. So they put all this pressure on themselves, and it's like, oh shit. And of course, it just puts you in a state of worry. So when you shift the perspective, shift the focal point, instead of like, I have to impress and please them, when you shift it into, how can I simply enjoy myself? How can I have fun? Like, how can I just enjoy the eroticism of this? Like, this is my erotic scene that I can explore and have fun with. It's like your sexual playground. You don't think so much about what's gonna happen. It's more about like, oh yeah, like let's do this. And just enjoy it. And of course, something else that brings confidence is simply training in sexual kung fu. When you train, you know you're able to keep your pelvic floor relaxed, your breath is solid, your body awareness is improved, then you're going to go into sex feeling more confident. So it's something that you must cultivate and practice and train in, you know? It's like anything. The first time you start with a sport, or maybe you're getting into MMA or something, like you're probably not very confident initially because you're surrounded by people who are at a higher skill level than you. You don't feel very skilled. And so there's a lack of confidence. But once you train, you practice, you get better at it, you experience it, it brings a sort of mastery. And with that repetition and familiarity, inevitably arises confidence. So sexual kung fu is simply about training. getting the muscle memory in, so to speak, getting the reps in. And you're gonna fail along the way, and that's totally fine. You're gonna learn from those failures. Start training, essentially. All right, and then that brings us into energy. And when I talk about energy, I'm talking about energy. I'm talking about life force. I'm talking about this invisible force. What's the difference between a live body and a dead body? You know what I mean? Something's different there. Well, it's like an electricity. The Chinese call it qi. The systems I've trained in, we call it qi. And it is like an electricity that animates the body. And when it no longer is flowing through the body, it's like the circuit's broken, you die. There's no more life force in that body. So, and if you don't like that, we can use the model of nervous system electricity. It's a fact that there's bioelectricity flowing through the nerves of your body. I will say that when you train in sexual kung fu, when you train in qigong, you start to engage the energy, you start to build the lower dantian, this energy center in the belly. Qi becomes a part of your reality. There's no question about it. It becomes very tangible and you feel it just as real as anything else. And it's not even inherently like it makes you more spiritual or anything. It's simply like a force that's there, and what you do with it is up to you. How this relates to arousal control. Our life force, our energy, our qi, our sexual energy has a strong relationship with the mind and the body. And really, where the mind and body interact, qi is found. And the way that you engage your mind within the body is going to determine how your qi flows. Most people are completely unconscious of this. It's kind of cliche at this point, at least to me. This famous term in the internal arts, which is yi dao, qi dao, which basically translates to where the mind goes, the qi flows. And so what that means is as you cultivate this mind-body connection, you can affect and manipulate the flow of qi. But of course, most men are completely unaware of this. And so what they're doing during sex is they're in a state of worry, state of anxiety. They're hyper-focused on like their penis. All this nervous, overexcited energies stuck in the penis, and there's nowhere for it to go. The pressure builds up, and it must go somewhere, so it leaves the penis, and they ejaculate. That's every sexual encounter, over and over and over. Well, what we're doing in sexual kung fu is learning to release that pressure of arousal internally. So, you're having some nice friction going on, whether it's your hand or your partner's body, or I don't know, an empty banana peel or something like that. Whatever it is, whatever you got. There's friction, and it's creating this excitement in the genital, this pressure, and eventually, again, if there's nowhere else for it to go, it's going to explode out the penis. You're going to ejaculate, son. So what we do in sexual kung fu is we open up pathways in the body for the sexual energy to move through, so that even before it's building up, you're opening up a pathway. It's like venting steam. It's like you've got a pot, it's cooking, you've got a lid on it, it's all this pressure. Well, if we open a valve and release some of that steam pressure upwards in the body, then it diffuses the intensity of what's in the genitals. And so what that looks like is you're having sex, it's like, oh, okay, it's getting exciting, it's getting built, it's building up. This would lead to ejaculation if I don't do something. Do I think about baseball? No, I've done that too many times. Do I stop and pinch my penis? No. Oh, let's try the thing that this weird dude on this YouTube video I watched said, where draw the energy upwards, bring it through these energy channels in the body. And you start doing that, and before you know it, the urgency to ejaculate is diminishing. There's less pressure. There's just as much pleasure, but instead of it all being stuck in the genitals, I've moved it upwards in the body. And you know what? Now my spine feels a bit orgasmic. Oh, now my brain's buzzing. And guess what? This is also the path to having a full body orgasm. Oh yeah. So that's the energy aspect of this, which of course it's an extension of your mind and your body, because you must also free up physical tensions in the body so that your nerves are open and loose and mobilized, so that your sexual energy has a pathway to flow through it. In the past couple of years, I started to realize whenever I'm having sex, and if I'm just having any difficulty moving the arousal from my genitals, if I move my spine, if I kind of stretch and open up my spine, just move it a little bit, I draw through my body, and it's just like effortless to move that sexual energy through it. So we do a lot of practices in sexual kung fu for the mind, the body, and the energy to open up the channel system, release tension patterns, learn to breathe properly, learn to breathe internally, which is essentially where your breath becomes like a bellows, like a pump for your internal energy. So what that means is you can pump your sexual energy through your body, pump it through your spine, have full body orgasms, and you don't ever have a point where you need to ejaculate because you're releasing the pressure internally. And that's pretty amazing in my experience, all right? So there you go, all right? So what I recommend that you do now is watch a video I made on how to circulate sexual energy to have non-ejaculatory orgasms. It's gonna build upon some of the things you've learned in this video, and it will give you practical techniques to start moving sexual energy through your whole body. so you can start experiencing full body orgasm. So check out that video, put a link to that. And also, if you're like, this sounds amazing and I want to like go all the way into this, this is what the sexual kung fu system is about, is teaching you to turn your body into an orgasm generator, all right? With complete ejaculation control. The best starting point is my free ejaculation control course, which is gonna give you all the essential foundations of ejaculation control. But for those of you who are really serious, you're going to want to take my multi-orgasmic man program. It's a comprehensive 12-week training to absolutely master all this sexual kung fu work, and it's fantastic. Men have raved about this program. It's changed thousands of men's lives, so highly recommend it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you learned something from it. If you'd like me to go more in depth into any of the principles I've talked about in this video, let me know in the comments below, and have a great day, my friend. Best wishes on your journey.